My name is Erika, and we are the leadership program. All right, so our conversation today is on Firefly service. So that is the title of today. So before we even get into it, for our opening connection and just to get our brains settled in to the next 45 minutes away from what the morning has already brought for you, this is the quote that's going to guide the entire thing. So I'll read it out loud. Life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but the moments that take our breath away. Life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but the moments that take our breath away. Now, this is basically anonymous. It's been attributed to everyone from Maya Angelou to George Carlin. So it's all over the map in terms of who gets credit for this quote. So we'll just leave it at anonymous. But looking at that quote, you've probably seen it before. What comes to mind? What are some reflections about that quote? You can type or talk. It's up to you. Any reflections on that quote?
It just makes me think that you need to take time to, if you do a vacation quote, you have to take time to stop and look at what you're seeing. You can't just the Grand Canyon and just say, okay, let's go. You have to actually stop and take in the beauty, take in those little moments that may not signify anything, but that you'll remember when you look back that it was something important.
Oh, I love that. Stop and look, take stock of the little moments that might not seem like something in the moment, but that you'll look back and realize were big moments. Thanks, Peggy. What other thoughts or reflections on that quote? Either in the chat box, please, or if you're over here on the panelist side, you can unmute yourself like Peggy just did. I'd love to hear one or two more thoughts.
It's about quality, not quantity.
Quality, not quantity. Thank you, Shonda. I love that. Quality, not quantity. Anyone else? All right, we'll come back to it. Oh, Lindsay, I gotcha. Oh, interesting. I look at my past in sections, like elementary school, junior high school, college, dating, marriage, first daughter, second daughter. So really sectioning our life and appreciating each of them, the moments contained within. Thank you for that. All right. Firefly service is the title. What we're digging into in some form or fashion is this idea, this phrase of customer service. So just looking at those two words, customer service. What words come to mind when you think about customer service? So just what comes to your mind when you think about customer service? Write it in the chat box or unmute yourself, please. Making people happy. What else? Genuine support. What else do you think of when you see the words customer service?
I think of it in terms a little bit of going back to what we've talked about in the past, a little bit of being grateful that you should treat your customers, be grateful that they chose you and not treat them as though they should be grateful that you're serving them. Having some gratefulness.
Be grateful. I love it. Be grateful that they chose you. So good. Anyone else? So funny. You all went straight to this lovely place. Oftentimes when I put those words up, the first things that come to mind are all of our nasty, negative experiences with customer service. Your hearts are in such genuine, loving places right now. All right, I do want to dig into, you went straight to the good kind, or at least the hope of the good kind. But it's important for us to understand what that looks like for each of us, how it has showed up for us in that idea of everything that all three comments, making people happy, genuine support, and this idea of I get to be in service to you, Peggy just said, those kind of all circle this idea of when have you experienced it? When have you witnessed it? Had it happen to you or heard of it? Start typing if you have a story. I'll share one. And then if you're here on the panelist side, you can also unmute yourself. The first and best example that always comes to my mind didn't actually happen to me. It's a story I overheard, and I overheard it about Zappos. which is since I heard this story, has since become legendary for their customer service. But what happened to me was many years ago, I was on a crowded subway train in New York City during rush hour. So if any of you live in or have visited New York City, you know that the subway in rush hour, you're like this close to the other humans. So you can't help but overhear conversations happening around you. So I happened to have a seat and I was squished next to a woman, and then standing over us was a man who turns out was her fiance, and then I think a couple of her friends. So in the middle of the train, she says, "Oh my gosh, you guys, look at this." And she pulls out of her purse a card with a handwritten note from the customer service representative from Zappos that this bride-to-be, had apparently been talking to about picking out the perfect shoes for her wedding. So this customer service rep from Zappos sent her in the mail a card handwritten with, I kid you not, hearts, flowers drawn in different colored markers, saying, "Thank you so much for letting me be a small part of your most special day." And she was like, "Can you believe it?" And I, the overhearing stranger, am like, "I can't believe it." And then went to my office and said, "You guys, Zappos is the best." Having never shopped there once in my life, will forever say, "Oh my gosh, Zappos is the best. You have to get your stuff from Zappos," because of the time that customer service person took to send that follow-up note. That's one example. Give me another. Either I've given you lots of time to type your own or to unmute yourself and tell me. So give me an example. It can be like that or something totally different.
When my kids were little, we went through the drive-through bank machine, and it gave me $20 more than I had taken out. And the boys were like 0 and 2. They were little. And I had gone through the drive-through because I did not want to get out of the car.
Yeah.
But it was $20 that didn't belong to us. So I drug them out of the car and took it back into the bank to let them know. And the next day I got a bouquet of flowers thanking me for being honest.
A bouquet of flowers from the bank, which cost them probably more than the $20 that you returned to them, as a way of thanking you for your honesty, which undoubtedly made you even more loyal to that bank than you already were, right? Okay, so I'm gonna read what Juan just wrote. "I work in college counseling and we host events often. I manage a team of 10 and they're expected to invite their students. Most just BCC email blast inviting them to the event, makes sense. But I often personally invite them, personalize the language, and follow up to ensure they attend the event." It makes such a big difference. That's a great example of something that you do and exactly tease us up for how I want you to be thinking for the rest of this time together. Is that, what can I do that's just that little extra? And I've experienced the same thing, Juan. If I need to send my team a notice about, this is coming up, here's some information, and it's just a blind CC, the amount of response I get is significantly less than if I write an email to every single person that says, "Hey, Juan," et cetera, and so on. "Hey, Peggy," et cetera, and so on. Even if it's the same email, that extra time it takes me, which is really not much, makes such a difference. So I really love that example as a personal example of something you do. And it really tees us up for this idea that we're all in the business of customer service. That is not just a sales transaction. Anyone else have a story of something they've witnessed or experienced from a customer service lens? That's one of those, wow, this was really good customer service, that you want to share? If you think of one, jump in at any time, because everyone's stories actually really help give us ideas. And your story about the great customer service experience you had will make us loyal to that place too, just by proxy. We hear the good experience you had. I want to go bank at Peggy's bank now. The idea of Firefly service came from this book, Take Their Breath Away. It came out in 2009. I stumbled upon it probably right around then, and was instantly a fan and have really incorporated and utilized the ideas within it since 2009. So it's an old, by some standards, book. We're not going to go through all of the strategies in the book, but I definitely recommend it if the tone of our conversation today is something that you find intriguing, it's one that I recommend picking up because it'll give you tangible strategies. But I'm going to go through the summary of the book and give us some food for thought, just like Juan just jumped right to, which is great. Here's the summary of their premise of the whole book, is that imaginative service, which should be our focus. If we focus on imaginative service, the effects that it will have on our customers, our clients, our students, if we're in education, is take their breath away. So this idea of Peggy gets flowers the next day, that's a take her breath away effect. And the result of that is a devoted customer. So as a person who is in service to, and we're all in service to someone, if we're in relationship with anyone in the world, we're in service to someone. How can we be imaginative in our service? And if we're intentional about that, the effect that we cause is a take their breath away moment. And when we intentionally try to produce those take their breath away moments, we get customer loyalty, brand loyalty. And the important part of this is that, and what they talk about a lot in the book is that, so if I'm in the business of really trying to offer imaginative service to you, and then I mess up because I'm a human and I'm going to get something wrong at some point, something is going to go awry in whatever my business is. No matter what industry I'm in, I'm not going to be perfect. So in the moment where I mess up and I don't give you the service that you deserve, that you were expecting, that you were wanting, that you requested, if up until that moment, what you've gotten from me is imaginative, take your breath away service, you're going to be so much more forgiving of me. And in fact, you'll defend me to my critics, right? You'll become the one that says, it's okay, let's work this out together. So the point of this is not just to produce that effect of take their breath away in order to get the devoted customers, but the intention is to build this trust bank where then when you inevitably don't offer the service that meets your own standards, much less theirs, they're so much more forgiving. So I want to ask you if you have any examples of this. So any person, place, or thing that you consider yourself a devoted customer to, because you've experienced that kind of take their breath away, take your breath away, imaginative service. So do you have any examples, a little more specific to my last question about just good service in general? Would you consider yourself a devoted customer to anyone or anything that you want to share with us? Give a minute in case you're typing, since I can't see most of you. Peggy.
My office mate and I said Chick-fil-A.
Tell us why. Tell us why about Chick-fil-A.
You go in and there are like 9 million people working up front and everyone is polite and no one seems like they're having a bad day at any point in time. My pleasure really is huge. I don't like it when other people say it because it feels like you're just copying, and it doesn't feel genuine, but from Chick-fil-A, it feels genuine. And as always with a smile, it's reliable.
Okay, so there's a few things you highlighted. Their efficiency, their line might be around the corner, but there's 400,000 of them working, so they move the line fast. So their efficiency, their genuine and authentic seeming joy to serve you, and the reliability of the service has made you a devoted customer. So that's a great example. Does anyone have any other examples of a place or a person? All right, I'm going to go to the chat. Thanks, Juan. A previous supervisor saw my strengths, gave me leadership positions, which eventually gave me a promotion. Always looking out for me, my personal self, and my professional development. Now a close friend, but took my breath away as a supervisor. Thanks again. These are great examples that you're bringing us back out of the realm of sort of customer service in the world and into the realm of our own work and how we can apply it. It's another great example. I'm going to make an assumptive leap here. So this is not what you said. So I'm making an assumption. Correct me if I'm wrong in the chat box, please, Juan. But I would assume that because of how much your supervisor went to bat for you and how much your supervisor was looking out for you, that you then would jump through hoops for her. So then you would go, if she asked for this, you would give her this. This is usually what happens to us when we have, yes, 100%. Juan took us again to this idea of, and I want you to all think about this for a moment, because you probably have an example of this too. The boss or the supervisor that implemented this probably without even realizing they were doing it. That over the top, imaginative, dedicated approach to leading you, always going that extra mile, always doing extra for you, means you would go 10 times farther for them, past the finish line. And we've all had experiences where the opposite of that is true. The supervisor is not going to lift a finger for us, so we're doing the bare minimum to keep our jobs, right? So it is a great example of how to translate this into our workspaces. Any other examples in our workspaces or in the general world of customer service where you might find yourself a devoted customer that you want to share with us? So the formula there, if we focus on the imaginative service, because that's really where we need to focus, because that's the thing, is what's the action that I take? Is in their mind, and in the authors of the book mind, what they call it is to surprise and delight. That's how they sum it up. Imaginative service lives in this idea of I'm always looking out for ways to surprise and delight. And I'm going to go back to the chat box for Lindsay too. Oh, Teacher Appreciation Week. Perfect timing for this, because we're about to enter Teacher Appreciation Week next week. Before I even read the rest of this story, it's a great example and a reminder that as we were talking today, if you are in education, or if you are a parent who has kids who go to school, next week is Teacher Appreciation Week. Thank you for that reminder. You worked at a school that took that very seriously. This is fantastic. They did lunch or snacks every day, notified the parents, which is really fantastic, so the parents could participate. And because those of you in education, it can feel very thankless, especially if you're in the trenches. And for a lot, speaking as a parent, someone who's a parent and who works in education circles too, on the parent side of me, I have best intentions and then it slips me by. And it's not that I meant to not thank you. So to get the reminder from the school to say, hey parent, this is the day, this is the week, here's what you can do, is really helpful. But so then the translation to that, Lindsay, is that you're running an after school program. This week is After School Professionals Week. So happy After School Professionals Week to those of you that work in after school specifically. You took that same inspiration and now are paying it forward, right? Giving something to your employees, cooking them dinner tomorrow. Rock on. That's outstanding. Congratulations to you. And another fantastic example. Surprise and delight. What's the something extra that they wouldn't expect? It's the something extra. And Peggy actually said it with the Chick-fil-A example, that it has to be authentic or none of this works. If it's fake and you're doing it just because you went to a workshop that said you should do it, but you don't actually care to surprise or delight the person, it will backfire and have the opposite of the intended effect. But that genuine, authentic, excited desire to surprise and delight the person. And the thing that's key about it is that it has to be authentic and it can't be like across the board the same thing. The idea is that it's in that moment for that person. So it might be a different thing tomorrow in a different moment with a different person. So if you can really wrap your head around this, it becomes something that's joyful for you to try to figure out, whether it's clients, whether it's students, whether it's coworkers, your direct reports, what is the thing? How can I surprise or delight this person today so that I'm in the end getting this devoted customer idea, if we think about it from a customer service? So some of the words that they use in the book are creating this idea of creating moments, because it's all about the moments in this moment right now, creating moments that are wide awake, enlivened, sparkly, animated, remarkable, enchanted, authentic, unforgettable. These are some of the words that come up in that book. When you look at that list of words, how do the words make you feel? What kind of thoughts or feelings come into your mind when you look at those words? This may be hard to answer. As I asked you the question, I realized my own answer is I would just answer with these same words. Those words make me feel animated and sparkly, like a star earning a gold medal. Great answer. Any other thoughts? Connected. I love it. There's something special. There's something this is different. It's different from the norm. It's different from what I expected. It's different from how I thought my Wednesday would go. And that's what we're talking about with this kind of customer service. And when we say customer service, we're talking about being in the business of service, which every single one of us is. If we're connected to even a single other human being on earth, we are in service and have the opportunity to think about how we are in service to those other people. And so there's a fun challenge there to create this feeling, happy, light, airy, different. So this showed up on my social media scroll this morning as I was having my coffee before getting ready for the day. This meme, I didn't write this. I found it and I was like, no way, this is coming before I had this conversation today. So this person writes this story. For years, I've been booking hotels with the extra note request option filled out of, please put a picture of Brendan Fraser from the 1999 movie, The Mummy, in the room. You guys, it finally happened. Thank you, Doubletree Phoenix, from the bottom of my heart. Thank you. So this person, as they book hotels, this makes me laugh so hard. As this funny person has booked hotels throughout their life, you know, you always have the option for a special note. Usually it's, I'll be late to check in, or can I have some extra towels, please? This person has tried for years to get this picture of Brendan Fraser put in their hotel room. And the Doubletree of Phoenix finally honored their request. This is exactly it. This is exactly what we are talking about when we're talking about Firefly service, because it is absurd. It is ridiculous. It has nothing to do with the basic needs of this person's hotel stay. It is all about imaginative, sparkly, wide awake service designed only and especially to surprise and delight that guest. Now, I don't know who that person is, but I guarantee you they will book at Doubletrees for the rest of their life. And I know just from reading this story, if I'm going to Phoenix and I have a choice of where I'll stay, I'm going to remember the Doubletree. You understand? That's how powerful these little silly things are. They make customer brand loyalty that ripples out so much farther than the person who experienced it. This probably took that person no amount of time at all. If you have the internet and a printer, you can print out a picture of this guy and put it in the hotel room. It takes no time, no money, and makes a lifetime of difference in this person. Any thoughts on this or comments? Before we move on from this one, I'll tell you a similar, I thought it was in this book, but I think there's another book that I like called The Power of Moments. And then in another book too. So in 2 or 3 different books over the course of probably the last 7 or 8 years, I had heard about this motel in the Hollywood section of LA called the Magic Castle Motel. And I had heard it described the same way. In each place was this idea of, it's nothing fancy at all. It's a motel, but they have a pool that has a popsicle hotline. So it's this red phone outside the pool that if you pick up the phone, the person on the other end will say popsicle hotline, and you tell the person what flavor popsicle you want, and they will bring it out to the pool for you. So I have 2 kids, 10 and 13, and the 3 of us took a California road trip this summer. And we landed in LA and stayed that night. And from just reading those stories, I was sure going to book us at the Magic Castle Motel for our first night. And there was, in fact, the popsicle hotline outside the pool. And not only that, a free soft serve ice cream machine. And at the front counter, any free snacks that you wanted, goldfish, Doritos, candy bars. So this is a motel it's not a fancy 4-star hotel. This is a motel that understands families are staying here. And what do the families want? Their kids want snacks. And we are going to do that extra thing and just give those snacks away for free and with joy. And I will stay there every single time I go to LA with my kids. Maybe not by myself, but with my kids. Okay. I'm telling you, it's these little things that seem like they mean nothing. They mean everything. So I want you to think about your current people in your life, current clients, customers, consumers, students, coworkers, supervisors, direct reports, people that report to you, stakeholders, board members, funders, community, all of the people that you have influence or impact over. I'm going to give you like 1 minute. I'm going to stop talking and just let music play. It might get loud. When I've lately been uploading music onto my PowerPoint, it like blasts out. So maybe turn your volume down in advance of this moment. Take about 1 minute and just jot down names and this idea of who are they and how could you surprise or delight them today. I'm going to give you about 1 minute to think about this. I've been wanting to add sparkle to my team of college counselors. Just told them on Monday that you're planning a team lunch. I love that. I love this has already been on your brain, Juan. Surprise coffee runs. That's such a good one. Many things for birthdays. This is exactly it. This is exactly the right line of thought because it's those little extras that aren't necessarily, and in fact, I think most times specifically not about the thing itself. So it's not about the business transaction itself. It's the extra something that seems to have nothing to do with it that sparkles and brightens their day. Yeah. And a lot of those things, those above and beyond things can be little things that don't take the things that we always say as our excuses why not to do this stuff is I don't have time. I don't have energy. I don't have money. There's too many big problems going on in my organization right now. We need to focus on that stuff. When the truth is, all of this, the sparkle stuff that we've been talking about today take very little time or money. And the result, the payout, the sort of ROI on this is huge. Anyone else want to share anything that came up for you?
I was going to say one of the most important lessons I learned when I was in college, I was working for the Y in the before and after school program. And my supervisor is a dear friend now. She made sure that she impressed upon us college kids that parents are people too. They're not just Johnny's mom or Susie's dad. So when they come in, don't just bombard them with what went wrong or with the kids. Ask them how their day was. Ask them how they're doing because they're individuals apart from their kids. So that's something that I really took to heart before I was anywhere near being a parent.
That's amazing. And talk about surprising and delighting an adult. As a young person to say, how was your day? It's very confusing, isn't it? When as an adult, a young person asks you how your day was and like genuinely stops to get the answer. That's an amazing thing. So to be taught that as an extra, that's a customer service approach right there. It seems not that big of a thing and it's a huge thing. Susanna, tag your it, notes of kindness specific to the person. Oh, I love it with a blank note for them to then keep the kindness going. That's so great because there is. So that's a perfect example to the quote that I have up on the screen here, which is it comes from this book about relationships. But I always find most of the stuff that might be speaking specifically towards romantic relationships is relevant to all of our relationships because it says there's an energy field between humans. And when we reach out in passion, it's met with an answering passion and changes the relationship forever. Meaning our energy is contagious. So this pay it forward idea is that if my energy is coming out to you. So I choose what that energy is, but chances are you're going to meet me with the same energy that I offer you. So those small things make such a difference. And when you have one of these things happen to you, you're so much more inspired and motivated to then give it to someone else too. Like, I got this note of kindness. I want to give this note of kindness. Somebody made this coffee run for me. I want to do something for someone else. It happens. So we don't want to be a dementor, right? This is the blink in turns to communicate. What? Wait, what? Oh, the firefly blink. They blink in turns to communicate. I'm like, wait, what? What's happening? Yes. Right? They do. It's true. It's the sparkle back and forth. We want to
So
be that.
I see what you were doing there with the Firefly theme.
Yes, thank you. We want to be that kind of sparkle. We don't want to be this, the Harry Potter Dementor, which sucks the life out of us, right? Not to be dramatic, but we all have Dementors in our life. And unfortunately, some of us are at times Dementors, whether we care to confess it or not. What that is those days when we are, not only are we not caring one little bit about providing imaginative, sparkly service that surprises and delights our team, but in fact, our energy is so negative that it's draining everything. It's the opposite. It's the opposite of that. Those small energy moments make a huge difference. And with small intentional actions, we can be the Firefly, not the Dementor. That's your takeaway quote for the day. Be a Firefly, not a Dementor. And the important thing is this idea to remember that perception is reality, because we could spend our last 10 minutes together arguing this. I do this, but they don't appreciate it. I do everything you're telling me, Erika, but nobody appreciates me. The thing that we need to continue to remind ourselves is that perception is reality. So in this case, it's their perception. So in other words, it's not what you say you are or you've done, it's how they experience you or the things that you've done. So that's where that sort of authentic and intentional stuff comes up of if you believe that you're doing these things and you're not getting that devoted customer result, you're not hearing back, oh my gosh, this was amazing what you did, then something is missing. And so it's time to re-examine your approach and go back to that list again. I've tried X, Y, or Z with Lindsay, and she doesn't seem to care at all. So I could be resentful and bitter that Lindsay is clearly not an appreciative person, or I can stop and say, what I'm doing is not what Lindsay needs. So I need to reframe and re-examine my approach to how to be authentic to her and what she needs in this moment. So one way that the book suggests, and you've probably done exercises like this around different topics, but that one way that this is, if we're feeling stuck, a way to whack our thinking is to think about these two questions, which is the they here can be the people you're in service to. You can pick any sort of your clients, your students, your customers, your coworkers. So you choose who the they you're thinking about. But when you think about like, how do they experience you? Are you hitting the mark? What would they miss if you were gone? So if you went out of business tomorrow, what are the things that they would say, oh my gosh, I'm missing this so much? Those are the things, if you hear that back, those are the things that are impacting them the most. And it's not always the things that we think it is. So if you're not sure the answer to that, ask some of your theys, your clients, your customers, your coworkers, what would you miss the most if we went out of business tomorrow? Those are clues and indicators of what you're doing. But then the second question is the harder one, which is what are they missing now? What are they like, I wish they would, if only they. So if you're not sure, we're not going to take the time to do it now because of our time. So I'm going to skip through this little 1 minute music moment, but it is a good question for you to take back. And if you're feeling so courageous, to ask directly, what would you miss the most if we were gone? And what are you missing now? Where am I not hitting the mark for you? These little musics, by the way, which I'm not going to play this one. If you're doing anything virtual and you need a 1 minute timer and you don't want it to just be a timer, this is the artist Sleeping at Last. And these are little music bites that he calls atoms. And each of them are only like a minute long. That's a totally not related topic, but Sleeping at Last. All right, I'm going to read in the chat box from Tanya. Oh, okay, wait a minute. This is so cool. I go to a doctor's office where they have a bucket that has orange colored beads in it. The clients can reach in and then give to the healthcare staff if they feel like they've shown them exceptional service. And then the healthcare staff can turn them in at the end of the month for prizes. What a great idea. So if I have X number of beads, I get X number of prizes, right? There's a fun and loving little competitive edge to this story. It's a great way to give me, the customer, a way to say, hey, Tanya was amazing. Here's a bead. but it's a great way for me and my coworkers to pay attention to how many B's each other is getting. That kind of competitive spirit can be like, well, wait a minute, I want that prize. I want to get those beads. So that kind of works on multiple levels. So I love that. This quote, those of you that come to workshops that I facilitate know that I'm a fan of quotes that make me feel a little bit yucky, that kind of put a little knife twist in my stomach, because those are always for me the best food for thoughts of, oh, I don't think I like that quote. It means I need to spend some time in it. And this was one of those, which I thought was really interesting. From one of the authors of the book, he says the customer trust gap is the emotional space between hope and evidence, between expectation and fulfillment. So I think there's something really profound about this idea of between hope and evidence. Hope is, this is what I hope you'll do, what I hope you'll say, what I hope I'll receive from you, what I hope is going to happen. And then how long does it take for the evidence to come in that you are going to say that thing, do that thing, provide that service? And truthfully, the bigger the gap, the lower the trust, and the less likely you're going to have devoted customers, clients, coworkers. If the gap is too big, the trust is really small. And really, when we're talking about this, it says customer, but I believe this is a true quote for anyone we care about in our lives. How big is that trust gap between what they expect and hope from us and the evidence that we will deliver on that? When we think about imaginative Firefly service, we could probably just think about that gap and how quickly am I working to fill it? So all of this relates to psychological safety. So I felt like we should at least spend one slide on psychological safety, because when I'm thinking about how I'm in service to, it really comes down to how psychologically safe am I making my coworkers, clients, students, partners, et cetera. And the elements of psychological safety include things like making them feel a sense of belonging, so they know they're not alone, that they feel seen and valued by me. A sense of clarity, making sure they understand where they are and what's happening. They understand what's going on. They're clear. Comfort, they know what to expect. They don't feel like what's happening right now, this is all confusing. Direction, they know where they're headed, you're headed. All of these aspects of psychological safety, we have time to spend with our teams creating this. But I think it's important for us to remember that even in a small interaction, we have the ability to ensure that psychological safety is present. And that really takes that sort of threat of the great white shark and turns it into this cuddly kitten. So it's another way to think about this when you think about your Firefly service. Am I creating a sense of psychological safety for those I'm in service to? All right, so I'm bringing us back as we end to the beginning. So for anyone that came in late, this is how we started. This was our kind of guiding quote. Life is not measured by the number of breaths we take, but the moments that take our breath away. So any final thoughts or reflections on this entire conversation, this idea of creating these moments that take their breath away, and the idea of surprising and delighting? Final thoughts, reflections, comments, ideas? Yes, it's a really good takeaway, Juan. It does not take a lot to add sparkle. It really doesn't. It can feel like that's just another thing. There's no way, but it's the tiniest things. And as you reflect throughout the day today, I hope your mind kind of travels throughout your experiences and you think about the hotels, the banks, the customers at the drive-through, the workers at the drive-through, the different places where you've experienced this, and notice how often it was something that was so small, funny, joyful, irreverent, that oftentimes had nothing to do with the service and everything to do about making your specific day better. That's it. How can I make Erika's day better today? I can do this little tiny thing and it'll make her laugh. That makes her day better. And it makes her like this experience with me more and makes her remember it. Any other reflections? Yes, Ashley, it's the people will remember what you said. People will not remember what you said or what you did, but they'll remember how you made them feel. 100%. Thank you so much for bringing that one up because it's exactly the point. We remember the feeling that we got from the experiences, from the moments. Even Lindsay, when you were talking about how you've chunked your life from elementary to the birth of your daughters, there's what travels with us is so often feelings from those times and those moments. And so I love that. Yes. All right. I hope that you go out and surprise and delight some people today.